There has been one particularly gruesome lesson that I have unfortunately had to learn several times with my rental properties. Now I think it's actually in my head on a pretty serious level. So now I feel like I can actually mitigate this problem. But arguably, even more than the condition of the property, the most expensive issue I've had on my rental properties is bad tenants. The first round of bad tenants I had, I knew they weren't super up and up, but whatever. I was like, well, when they move out, we'll deal with it then. $8,000 turnover. What I learned from that was the longer bad tenants stay in your property, the more opportunity they have to damage your property. Okay, cool, winning. A more recent property I had, similar lesson. These tenants didn't have quite as blatant disregard, but they did not take care of the property at all. And this is actually turning out to be a $12,000 turnover. So I screeched my brakes. I was like, okay, hang on. This can't keep happening. What is going on? Now, I'll caveat this with I use property managers on my properties because I'm not local to most of my properties. I do have one local one that I'm the landlord, but my experiences have been with property managers. Absolutely, the property managers should have been more on top of these things. But me as the owner, ultimately, it's my responsibility to ensure that the property managers are doing what they should. And one of the reasons that I was a little bit more passive about this in the beginning is I always assumed the property managers were doing what they should have done. This last round, because it turned out I had a bad property manager managing, I learned exactly what they did wrong. And now I know what to make sure that all the property managers do from here on out. And if you're landlording your own property, basically the same thing applies. So, bad tenants. Hands down the most expensive issue I've had on my rental properties. Granted, I buy turnkey rental properties, so I buy them freshly rehabbed. So that does, take out a major potential expense of repairs on the property or rehab or whatever. But bad tenants can be so costly. There's no way I could have even known this in the beginning. They can cost you in eviction fees, in non-payments, extended vacancy, turnover costs, repairs, damages, the whole thing. They can swipe out your cash flow quite easily. So as far as the bad turnovers that I've had, like the really obnoxiously expensive ones where the tenant wasn't really taking care of the property, here are the two things that I will absolutely hands down insist on anytime I get anytime I get a new tenant and then managing that tenant. Number one, and there's a link in the comments to a video specifically about this, the move-in inspection. Most people, whether you're a landlord or property manager, most people, when they do the move-in inspection, most people know to do that. But for instance, they only tend to take pictures of things that are wrong. Guess what? That's completely opposite of what you should be doing. You need to be taking pictures of everything that is right. Because at the end of the tenant's lease or whatever, when they're moving out, if suddenly those things are no longer right, you need proof that they were upon move-in. Because if you don't have pictures, and forget writing it out, you need the picture documentation. Because if you try to hold back the tenant's security deposit and they're going to fight you in court on it, you need the proof saying this tenant signed off, these are the pictures, there was nothing wrong with it in the beginning of that tenancy. They're not going to have a leg to stand on. But if you don't have those pictures, they'll say it was broken when I moved in. And even if it's just in writing saying, oh yeah, the living room is great, that may not hold up in court. So the move-in inspection is absolutely critical if you ever want a chance of keeping the security deposit and potentially going after them for more if the damages surpass that. Whether you get that or not, who knows, but at least you can go after them for it. But that move-in inspection has to happen. It has to have so many pictures, and specifically the most important pictures are of the things that are good and functional, not the things that are wrong. Totally backwards from what I ever thought. Second thing, I don't care if the property manager is going to charge you for it. I don't care if you have to go out of your way to do it. Have yearly inspections done. You have to keep track. First of all, this will go back to the court thing, because if you have if you've been tracking the condition of the property and you can prove when the tenant, did this damage, all the better. But for your own sanity and to prevent, or hopefully prevent as much as possible, a huge turnover on the back end, go in for the yearly inspections. First of all, you can see what the tenants are up to. Second, you can easily justify it, say we do yearly inspections. here I come. And you want to see the condition of the property the whole time, because if you go, let's say the tenant's in there for 5 years and you never check on anything, you're not going to know when that snowball of damage began and or how big it's gotten. You want to be able to nip it early. Like if they start damaging the property, cool, but nip it immediately. Don't let it go on, because the longer a tenant stays in your house, the more opportunities they're going to have to damage it. So, recap. Bad tenants, well, and start with tenant screening. That's basic. Everyone knows that. Like, screen your tenants. Don't skimp out on the security deposit. Don't skimp out on their income requirements. Like, make sure they actually fit the qualifications. But once that happens, the two things you've got to make sure you do is the move-in inspection with an overkill of pictures, and at least yearly inspections, if not twice a year. Some property managers do twice a year. Some landlords maybe are, at the property more than that. But at a minimum, get some neutral eyeballs on, well, neutral to the tenant, not neutral, they should be on your side. Get some eyeballs on the condition of that property, so if damage starts or if they're not taking care of the property, you can nip it sooner rather than later, and hopefully prevent potentially thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars of repairs later.